Guys, it's 25 to 7, so we've got around 9 people on the call, so I think we can start the discussion. There's some people, I'm live on TikTok and I'm also live on YouTube. So I think people will join in from there as well. So if there are any comments that come in from those platforms, I'll share with you, Bonga.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. How's everybody doing? Thumbs up, Nyana, if you're feeling good. Thank you. I'm honestly so excited to do this. First time hosting a book on this platform. You guys, you're a star chef, especially on the group, so supportive. But I am excited to get into the book, actually. And I will start off with the question that we all want to know, basically. What did you think about the book? I want to hear who liked it, who didn't like it, and why. Right? Any takers on that? I'll go first while we wait. Firstly, I found it to be the writing style was hard for me to get into, especially in the beginning. But overall, I really liked it. I liked the character's growth. This is Kirabo and the journey towards all of that. But please, guys, I don't want to take all the time being the one talking. So if there's anybody who wants to share, please do go ahead.
Awesome. So I'll go since I'm already unmuted. Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. Please be aware if you're gonna come on camera that I'm recording and this is live on YouTube. So please be camera ready. And then the book, guys. I didn't get through this book. I tried reading it. I tried listening to audio. So happy that Bonga, you are taking this, because if you had dropped me today, I don't know what we would have done. So I personally did not read the book, but I'm open to hear what other people think about the book. I say, Esther, you can step in.
Yes.
Like any, no judgment, please. Around the book.
Okay.
Yes,
Can
we
you hear
can.
me? Okay. It was quite a long read for me, I won't lie. But I think it started out slowly because the character was a young girl. And she's also confused about the world. I think she brought us in the confusion. But as she grew, I think we grew with her. I'm enjoying the book as I'm finishing it. I'm currently on page 414, almost there. So yeah, looking forward to what everybody else has to say.
Lekeni, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I enjoy. I mean, I enjoy Jennifer's writing. I think because this is the second book we're reading, by her. I really enjoy the writing. I mean, I'm not sure about the book though. Like, if I love it, I think they're like really great lessons and lots of quotables in the book, but I felt it was lacking in the plot. Like, I could tell where it was going, but I was just like, I'm not sure if it comes together. Like, the story just felt a bit disjointed for me. I think part of it is also because I was trying to rush through it. I started it last minute. Um, and I think Jennifer's books, you have to sit with them because they're really thick. So you have to take your time, consider. Um, but I enjoyed it. I enjoy her writing. I think, yeah, she leaves you with so many considerations and thoughts and challenging social norms. It was, yeah, so I enjoyed the book.
No, I agree with that. And I feel her writing style or the plot of this book is not like gripping, something I'll remember for the rest of my life. I think it's a bit forgettable in terms of like what happened and who did what. And also, there's just so many characters and things like that, which is fine, which is honestly fine for a book because they all contributed something. But the plot wasn't gripping. Like, you weren't at the edge of your seat. This is my opinion on it, like waiting to hear what's next, who's going to do what. But you sort of read through because you're like, okay, I'm just trusting the process and I want to see where this goes more. And I think because it's not a page turner, it's why a lot of people possibly could not have gotten through it. Does anybody relate to this? I think Sanogute, you have your hand up. You can please.
Sorry. Okay, I just unmuted myself. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I really enjoyed the book. I didn't like Chintu as much as the first woman. I felt like the way that Makumbi integrated the political atmosphere was much better in this book than in in her debut. And I love the way that rural feminism was kind of intentionally discussed. Another thing I love is that no character was flawless, that all of them, you could look at them with some so they were real, they were relatable. It's like you can be excellent and still make certain mistakes in your life. I felt like, the only problem I think I had was in the middle, there was that section that goes back to the past, to the grandmother's era. And it kind of, it gave that disjointed thing. I think it was like Kenny was talking just now saying, it gave that disjointed feeling. Otherwise, I loved it. I enjoyed it.
I actually do agree with the past feeling disjointed. It also felt like a filler where I felt she had no other way of telling us what actually happened to their relationship and how they fell apart and really what led to the grandmothers being here now. Also the drama. People have been getting down since back in the day. So I don't know, since for those who didn't get through it, to let you know, so there's two grandmothers who it's Ntuta and Alikisa. And these two basically they don't get along. And then we find out in this midsection somewhere that they were besties from, Fantuka. And then somewhere along the line, Alikisa pursued education, whereas Miro wanted to get married, right? And she said Miro is a grandfather. Please, anybody correct me if I'm losing the plot anyway. And therefore, she went for university, and Miro stayed and then married Alikisa, which is the best friend. And their agreement was, I'll join you later as like a second wife type of thing. And that never really happened for various reasons. There was a child there involved, which is the firstborn, who is Kirabo's mother. So that drama it felt odd to be like, oh, this is when we get this now. But okay, that's the little background check for anybody else. But Esther, please go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I think she did it on purpose, like to keep us glued in order to find out why they actually went off on each other. Because that actually made me want to read even more.
Fair. Esther?
Okay, hi everyone. I just wanted to say also I enjoyed the book. Actually, in the beginning, I thought that when I started to hear, like, I forgot now the granny, the other lady that was supposed to marry Miro, when she was starting to describe how the first women were in the beginning, I thought that the story was going to take that plot, and I was excited to find out what is happening. But that didn't happen. But I wasn't disappointed, as I was just following Kirabo around like a little dog. So yeah, I also enjoyed it.
Okay. If I haven't missed any hands, I also want to hear from those who didn't get through the book. What were their reasons and why? So are you liking it as where you are, or you're like, listen, I'm not going to finish this. I just know I'm here for vibes, but I'm just not going to finish this.
I may be the only one who didn't finish this book. Is there anybody else who didn't finish?
Oh yeah, we do have others. Guys, feel free to join.
So Kangelwa, Kondi, and Linda are the villains. Kangelwa, why did you get through it?
In fact, I'm interested. What was the point where you said I'm not continuing with the book?
For me, I was listening to the audiobook, and once an audiobook has a lot of characters, I disengage because I want to read that. But yeah, even the book itself, it was so big. And yeah, I just wasn't my time, I'll try again. Apparently, good book and people really enjoyed this.
Okay.
I think
I think I read a huge part of it. I think I read about 3/4 of the book. It's the story about the grandmothers where I got really, really bored. I just couldn't go on, and then I skipped to the last chapter, and then just listened to that up till the end. So it's really just that bit that I didn't get to finish. Yeah, I couldn't. The story just bored me.
She is very detailed, like
Yeah,
very, very detailed. I'm like,
yeah,
no, we could have described this in a sentence. We did not need a paragraph. So I
yeah.
hear you. I hear you about that. Kondi?
Thanks, Mom Pure. I just read the first chapter and couldn't get past that. You know, I can't even tell you why, but I'm still determined to actually read the
Okay.
entire book, which I'll probably
Okay.
do in the next 2 weeks, and then
Oh,
I'll give you guys
and more
my
of this.
summary on the chat. Yeah, but yeah, I also think the size just put me off, you
Mm.
know. But yeah, thanks.
Linda?
I struggled. I really, really struggled with this book, and maybe because it was an audiobook. Um, so I started reading it from our last meeting, read a little bit of the first chapter, and then was kind of like, I can't listen to this anymore, then stopped. But over the last 3 days, I've kind of made a great effort, and I'm now in book 5, the last book. It's just long-winded. There's a lot of description that I feel like is not bringing any depth to the story. It just felt long-winded. And I was trying to work out what is my actual problem with it, because it's not the writing. The writing is pretty good. The storyline is not bad. It's just lacking excitement, but it's not bad. I found it very long-winded.
Mm. Makes sense. Makes sense. I still see Linda and Kangelo. You guys have your hands raised. Please go ahead. Okay. Since
No,
that,
sorry. No, sorry about that. I didn't mean to say anything.
okay, no problem. Guys, I do hear your perspectives. And somebody just made a comment. Sorry, made a comment in the comment section that they don't agree that the book had a lot of characters. But it sort of did. There were so many side characters also that there was a best friend at some point. There was the crush at some point, the crush's parents. Like they were all little people there and there. But on my side, one of the things that I actually want to start and talk about really, and I'm hoping for engagement in this, was Kirabo's mother. I think she is the center of this in one way or another, or she starts this conversation for us in her being a deadbeat parent. I mean, we're so used to the narrative of children being raised by their grandparents. I think that's very common even here in South Africa. And the result of that is that, urbanization, the parents have moved to the city, to work and things like that. But I don't know of a lot of cases of deadbeat mothers, but we do see a lot of deadbeat fathers. So I actually want to hear your takes on, guys, on terms of in relation to the mother, her choice not to be involved in Kirabo's life, and even on Kirabo seeking her out and her reaction towards it. Anybody have an opinion on that? Oh, to me?
Hi, you guys.
Mm.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment first on the characters because I'm the one who made the comment about the main characters. I think with this one, you could see who is the main characters, right? Who are the main characters? And everybody is just, like you said, sides. So with Kirabo, you have to understand that these are the characters. Everybody is involved in her story. But when you look at the grandparents, then you see who is the major or the main character, right? So when you look at the deadbeat mother, her husband is not an issue. They'll just mention her, but he doesn't really play a factor. Unlike in Kintu, where literally all of those people, you have to, if you lose one person, you're just like, what the hell? Who is this? What are they doing? Right? So for me, that was that was what I was always commenting in the group to say, guys, what many characters here. It's Kirabo, Miro, the two grandmothers fighting over Miro, and then the having best friend. That's it, you know. And then with the deadbeat mother, oh yeah, no. I really don't even know what to say about that woman. But yeah, I really did not have any opinions of that lady, except for the fact that, okay, fine, before we got to the point where we really found out what was happening and we actually met her in the book, I just felt that, okay, she was 13 years old, and yeah, maybe this thing of having a baby at a young age, but then when we got to meet her and we saw just how she reacted to Kirabo, like, I mean, that was just terrible. And I think that's one thing that Jennifer is able to do. Like, if she wants to give you a point of view or a perspective on a social issue, she will go deep into it, and she will really give us like the most extreme. So I respect I not respect, I appreciate that that point of view. The mother, although I agree with you.
And in you like your point about it being the most extreme perspective, but also looking at the timelines and when it's said, it seems very likely that a 13-year-old would get married off or have a child by a much older man, which is actually still even happening to this present day. Did you find yourself reacting more viscerally to the fact that it was a deadbeat mother and not a deadbeat father? I feel like if it was a father, I'd be like, nah, man, okay, what's new? But because it was the mother, I was like, oh. And I don't know if that is a double standard. Would we say it is?
Can I come in there? I think she did that on purpose because the entire book is focused on like the true essence of a woman, what we are as women. We are this powerful force. So she did that on purpose to make the mother a villain, you know, to show that, yes, she took that thing of we were very powerful, we were able to make our own choices, but then she showed us the beautiful side of it. And then she also showed us what the negative side of it can mean. And that is how Kirabo was. Yeah.
No, I agree. Kangela?
Well, for me, when the mother denied her and was not interested, I was very sad for Kirabo, because she grew up yearning for her mother. From the start of the book, she's constantly asking, but where is my mother? Whenever she's sad, she's asking, where is my mother? And then even when Tom tries to be a present father, it doesn't work out with Tom's wife, and then the grandmother decides that Kirabo should go on without a father too. It felt just so unfair that it felt like she's very much loved, but at the same time, she's not loved. The people that are supposed to love her were really just not there for her, with Tom not being able to, and the mother really just not there completely. So yeah, that was really, really sad.
Yeah, and the rejection of it all. Even with Tom being there, he still wasn't a present father. He didn't really choose her. He chose his new life, his new family, his new wife, and being financially present is not the same, especially if he has capacity, because he does have a whole family that he lives with and is actively and is there and present for. And I can definitely see in the book how no matter the love she got, it'll never be enough from anybody because she wanted that validation and that belonging to her parents. And I think that definitely did affect her choices, or even this longing was perpetuated by that feeling more than anything. So great points there. Great points. Tana, good now?
So I actually felt a lot of empathy for this mom, for what's her name, Lavencia. This is the issue. I think in her time, the highest form of accomplishment for a woman was getting married. And she had Kirabo at around the age of 13, if I remember correctly. And she was kind of protecting being alive. Because the idea was that you're not supposed to study and work and whatever, you're supposed to become a wife. And if you don't become a wife, you won't have a home, you're going to stay with your parents. And essentially, ushwanele ekhaya.
Yeah.
But when she then saw Miguel on that driveway, when she saw Kirabo like at the gate or on the driveway or something, and drove past her after acknowledging, like our eyes locked, and then you drove past, I was like, let it burn. This woman is a grown up now. She has a job. So it's not like she's risking her whole livelihood.
Yeah.
She's just a deadbeat.
Yeah.
I was like, hi, do it, you know.
True. And I thought, I think I still had hope up until when Kirabo went to the office of her husband's office to be like, no, she's my mother. And she still denied it even then. I was like, no, because now you don't even have the threat of your husband and your marriage falling apart. You know, I could see the previous threats, like your livelihood, and now maybe the next threat at that driver would have been like my marriage, you know, like guys being divorced even then was so scandalous. But then how at that point I was like, nah, girl, nah, I'm sorry, I'm done. That was when I was done for Globile.
Oh yes, I just wanted to talk about, I can't recall the character's name, but she did warn her that when she's grown, she should feel sorry for other women. Like if they make certain decisions, do not judge them. And I feel like now that is what we're currently doing with her mother, because we're judging her despite her having made some mistakes along the way. Why don't we try to understand that she got pregnant while she was young? Imagine the emotional trauma, having to hide that. And then she probably told herself that I'm never going to do with this ever in my life. And then this girl shows up and then she's about to disturb her peace. Maybe we should be more understanding of her situation as well. And there's that quote about if you can't beat the master, you what?
Join them. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a quote about where they were saying if you can't hit the master, you usually bite yourself, and I feel like that's what we women tend to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So maybe we should be more understanding of
Mm. True, and which is where going back to what I feel like is a double standard in how visceral we are to a reaction of her being a deadbeat mother, because they are deadbeat fathers, and it's like, what have you not seen before? Let's move on. Who will do exactly what she did with the, people go on Tatako and their fathers still reject them, and we like a day, like what a day's work, basically nothing. So I see, like we can't be too harsh on her for that. But there are sort of 2 points that I actually want to branch into now, considering just the discussions we've had. One, the choice to study being what's so important in all of these women's stories. We've seen how Kirabo's mother chose to study and what it led to. But there's also Alekisa's choice to study. And in fact, I think it has a lot to do with her being branded the village witch. Because if she chose to study a generation before Kirabo's mother, and she chose education over, the traditional, get married, settle down, and sort of shrink down to that. But what I do want to comment on, and I'd like your perspective, her education didn't, what's the word I'm looking for, escape her from the judgment of society anyway, of what, she didn't escape from, patriarchy's view of what a woman is, what it should be, educated as she was. She's still, I don't know if you guys are understanding what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. I think also her being involved with another man whilst also being married also contributed to that. But yeah, it goes to show that as much as education was more like an escape for them, at the end of the day, if you don't conform, you might get judged anyways.
and she did get judged quite heavily. I mean, I think it was quite unfair for her to be branded as the village witch, which, you know, she didn't really have any active witchery practices. And her wisdom was just that she acknowledged and she had chosen a different path, and she was villainized for that, which is exactly what we're doing to Kirabo's mother. But I will say her choice was not to abandon her child, though, guys. I mean, we can make choices, but when a human is brought onto this earth, there are sacrifices that should be made. But that's my personal opinion on that. I do want to talk about something else then, of course, in relation to escaping, or the thought that you will escape certain judgments just because, you know, you're educated or you're of a certain standard. I want to talk about Kirabo's crush with her now. I don't know, his name is Sia, the white boy. Um, in her thinking, because one, he was white and he was educated, that she would be then an exception to the traditional views or his expectation of how she should conform as a woman. Did anybody else feel like that she sort of had that, like, I'm different, you know, as I don't think she was black. I thought he was okay, guys. Did I misread it? Or was it just light skin?
He was light skinned. I think they explained his mother's Tanzanian, and because I'm like, he was light skinned, but he wasn't white, and then he was born in
No,
the
I really thought
UK.
he was. No, guys, was he not white? And his dad was a doctor. What? I don't
No,
think that doctors in that day would have been guys.
you've anchored
Did we
yourself
read the
in
same book?
colonization. You said that the dad is a doctor, and if we couldn't be black. No, his mom is Tanzanian, but they said he's light skinned and he's black. There's a part where they discuss the fact that he is actually black.
Okay, fair. And then do we also then agree or have an opinion about then he is black? Sorry, guys, I heard he was light so often I thought this was a white man. No, that was a black king. I am so sorry, Theo. In how I thought he'd be different. Did anybody expect him to now sort of be different in his views of patriarchy? Or did you feel like he did also engage? Yeah, they called him Muzungu, guys. You see, I wasn't crazy. Thank you. He'd be different, like he turned out to be a different man. But I feel like in the end, he still was a man because he did end up with the other girl, the best friend. And also their thoughts around that. But any thoughts on that? Do you guys know who I'm referring to? Can you please go ahead?
Yeah, look, I think sometimes we, like in each time period, we ask too much of people to be too progressive. Standing now in 2025, my expectations of what a progressive black man should be would be very different from what it would have been in 1974, right? And some of the views that he espoused on feminism, I thought were very progressive for the time. And unfortunately, even, I mean, he made statements like the fact that, you know, feminism or patriarchy actually is harmful not only to women, but also to men, which is true, right? And to be able to understand that at that time is astounding, right? I think the errors he made were because even when you go against status quo, just like Nusuta, the grandmother, you unfortunately will have society still having an opinion and fall into peer pressure, whether we like it or not. We live in community, right? And even when you try to make decisions that make sense to you, but go against the grain, you can only take so much before you feel like I have to conform. It's the same as what we do in white spaces and corporate, right? You want to hold the space as a black person and then you code switch because you know it's harmful to you at some point. So I think there's a level of pushing the envelope and then there's a level of conforming because you can't constantly be in fighting mode. And I do think he tried to be quite progressive and he did make progressive statements.
No,
But then
yeah.
he made his errors, and as I think it was Utando who said, you know, all the characters were flawed, and he also had his flaws, and it came in that way.
Please, yes, no, great points. To me, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think just adding on like Henny's point on being progressive, like making progressive comments and having progressive beliefs in certain areas, but then obviously society and just what society thinks and says you should be at a particular time will always come into play. Just like how Nsuta's dad was very progressive in his thinking, that his daughter, even Miro's dad, thinking that it's very progressive for a girl to go to school and for a girl to pursue education, but then very progressive, right? But then also to also be worried that, I mean, you're not getting married, and now this, like you're not going to get married, and that's the true value of a woman. So it's just at that time, for his time, for that period, he was a very progressive man. And then when he actually best friend, that was when the society sort of like 2 steps towards being progressive and then
back to it. All of this true. Even
towards 3 steps back.
yeah. And in fact, I want to talk about selective progression. I feel like a very reoccurring theme of they were selective in what they chose to progress in, as long as it benefited them. For example, even getting the girls to be educated, like I'm talking about Alekisa and Fluta's generation, it was beneficial for them to get married at that time because for their fathers and for them to become more marriable. And also it benefited them in terms of like being in positions of power and all of that, is that they had to be educated so that they are more marriable, and hence their fathers pushed for their education, right? It was never about that they valued women having education, or that it was about, as a society, this is what we think, women are equal and therefore are deserving of this opportunity. But for the sake of capitalism, and at that stage, the opportunities would have granted them by extension of just marriage to, as being a wife was more marriable, they said send these kids to school. But even then, they shouldn't study too much. I think high school was when they said they should stop, and then anybody else who then continued post high school, which is what Ntutu chose, then became undesirable again. It's almost like there was a threshold of how much they wanted you to progress before you were undesirable. Lekeni, your hand is up. Also, I think Tanuguhle was up first.
I think you're being hard on them, I think in the times that they were living, they were very intentional about pushing back. I remember this conversation at the end after Tom's funeral rites, when the village leaders are divvying out the
with the
property.
land. Yeah.
And I love what Miro says there. He says, we have decided this so that our daughters and the women in our family don't have to suffer through horrible marriages and feel like they don't have a choice. So I felt like they didn't go all the way to where we are now, but for their time they were hella progressive to me. I was trying to think, if I was in that system, what would I have tried to do to try and push the progress of women? But I felt like that was excellent to say, we still believe marriage is more important than anything else. We want you to be in a good marriage, but we don't want you to stay there. If you're miserable, come home.
Come home. True. And you know what? You are right. I think I am I read it with the eyes of now and my experiences now and my views now. So I was like, I hear you, but and so I definitely do appreciate you guys constantly reminding me that, hey, this is like what, 1970s, I think, in Uganda. The political climate, in fact, is also very relevant here, in terms of how things were. In fact, South Africa in the 1970s was very different, and most likely, I don't know if on par, but likely to also have had similar views. So you are right. You definitely are right. But do we think in modern times we still then practice sort of selective progression or selective feminism?
What does Chimamanda say? You teach girls to what?
To shrink themselves. Yeah, on point. On point. Like, can you had your hand up? Please go ahead.
Oh, it was to echo Tanugle's points about
that,
Yeah, and I wanted to add that I think there were different fathers in the book, but Miro definitely genuinely wanted his children to get educated, and it came from his own father. Like he was very clear. I mean, even when the one daughter guy, the one who ran away, came to the funeral, he was like, "Let me tell you, I might be upset with you, but you always have a home. If that man is not treating you well, you come home." So I think he was genuinely, I mean, he didn't care about anything else to leave his father's house to Kirabo and be like, "Don't tell anybody, but I don't want you to not have anything. You don't have a father, you don't have a mother. So I'm leaving your grandfather's land to you." And he also advised to use that land and like make it productive, plant, do something, but I'm not leaving you stranded. So I think like that man,
he
was for his girls, he was for his granddaughters. I mean, to even let them come to the reading of the will or the splitting up of the land, the females, he was like, the sister's taking care of his kids and his grandkids, and then you don't want her in this meeting. We're not about that life. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that Miro, I think other fathers, like there's another father who sends his kid because Miro's kids are going to school. Then it's like more complicated. But Miro genuinely wanted his children to and his granddaughters and his daughters to escape patriarchy as much as they could. I mean, but I think every generation is going to struggle with this, right? I mean, even when you do TikTok, we debate what is feminism every week.
Don't you?
And then people like change it, and then it's like suits the narrative that week. So I think there's always going to be this struggle of how progressive we become. And because we're going to make some progress and then hit a wall, and then the next generation pushes it further.
Move the needle forward.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I felt actually that Kirabo going to boarding school really played a role in how fast in her perspective of how she then, like what it means to be a woman, right? I thought that we were constantly learning what the first woman was according to each woman's growth in life and their journey. Like, for example, the principal, I was like, whoa, we had a whole female principal after school and how she governed them and the values that she taught them. So I went to an all-girls school, and so I related to some of having had a female principal, what you were taught in terms of like, what to aspire to, what it means to be a woman, and just the carefreeness around women's bodies, right? But did anybody go to boarding school and had a similar experience, or like an all-girls school, or did you? Please go ahead.
I feel like I'm talking a lot. I'm not going to talk
No, it's fine
anymore. But I was also in a boarding school, an all-girls boarding school. And I must be honest, there was very little shaping towards feminist perspectives in my school. Not intentionally anyway, but there was this thing of like, get educated, go as far as you can, be successful, whatever. But I think there was a very distinct decentering of men, even if it wasn't on purpose. So for us, it was never about you need a husband. It was never about like the world of men is going to reject you. It was just go and do stuff and live and be whoever you want to be. So I think there was more intention in that school, as probably because of the times. There was more intention to be pro-feminism and pro-development of women. And I don't know, I've never had any other principal. I actually went to all girls schools for 11 years of my 12 years at school. So I don't know anything about like co-ed schools to compare with. But the principals are really quite firm with girls in girls schools. There's like no leeway for movement, but we also know how to cheat the system.
And even in that context of the boarding school, they were very protected, right, in the little bubble, but they were still not spared certain things like the war and how it affected them. And despite the principal's intention or the school's ethos of sort of like decenter men, there was actually some very centered fights. There was very, very men-centered fights in that school. I think that fight about who, and also the labeling that comes with, oh, this one was like, she ran through because of this one is stole this one's man, which for high school, very hectic fights to be having, and which sort of got me back again that no matter how much you could be in a bubble, there sort of is no escaping it. Like, we do live in the system anyway. And the soldiers too. Oh, please, the soldiers. Anybody else have a take on the soldiers and actually what they did to those girls? Before I'm the one who's just going in on my perspective on them.
I saw it.
Guys, can I ask?
Huh?
I don't know if I'll be ruining it for those who didn't read, but what is the story actually about?
We know why you should have read the book. You see why you should have read the book.
Yes, whatever.
Now you're asking
Like,
we're almost an hour in, and here we are.
all I know is that there's a girl with a hard
you're getting a
relationship.
demerit.
Yeah, actually, we
With the
do
mother
a
wound.
demerit system. Oh, Bali, your hand is raised. Please go ahead.
No, you know what, Katahang, sorry. That question is very valid because I read this book. I'm on page 400 and child, I'm just like, no. You see, I take all the, the little snippets, the little nuggets and stuff.
Yeah.
It's there. But where's the plot? Where's the climax? Where is the, even the things that are supposed to be a shocker, they didn't shock the system because I was like, I thought, Esther, I think Esther, it was Esther who said, at the beginning it gave, we're going to find out the first woman, women were in the ocean and vibes. And then I was like, oh no, it's about her discovering, searching for a mother. Then we family secret vibes, we're going to find. And when all that stuff is revealed, it's just anticlimax. It's just I could not figure out what I took away from this book. And I think Atahang is basically affirming how I felt even after I read the book. I'm like, what exactly is this book?
It's a book about. It's not for the plot, guys. It's for the lessons. Okay, we do not read, Jennifer, for the plot.
It didn't need to be 400 pages then. It
I
didn't
agree with
need
that.
to be 400 pages.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry to derail. I just you took it.
That's a
I'm so annoyed.
It's about patriarchy without the plot. No, that's a gist of it, Kgosi. That is a gist of it. To me, you have your hand up.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like Harriet, I always take the words out of each other's mouths. What I've found and accepted with Jennifer's writing from Kinchi, right, is that forget the plot.
Yeah.
For me, Jennifer discusses social issues, and that is all that you should take. I take that because even with Kinchi and the many storylines and the many characters and what, I just felt that, okay, what issue is she trying to bring up and give us some time to really look at it and discuss it, plot, what plot? So this one here is the main theme, patriarchy, and just women trying to exist within this patriarchal world, and we are just trying to make it. And it was actually kind of ironic because I was reading a lot of books, well, not a lot, 2 other books that were discussing how women just have to make it in this patriarchal world. You guys, with this book in mind, I would also suggest go listen to or read I Hate Men and God is a Black Woman. I think something like that. I'll put it there. But yeah, you will see here the same themes that patriarchy and what feminism is, what we are as women living in this terrible patriarchic system imposed on us by, to quote the Black, God is a Black woman, white men, God and his minions. So
it's almost like, you
so
guys watch
patriarchy.
Oh
Forget
yes,
the plot, guys.
it's like watching the day in the life of guys. I'm gonna plot. It's just life, and you're just going through it,
Thank you.
and then talking about the
Yes.
things that affect your day. That is exactly what it is. It's just a narration of a day in the life of Kirabo. Honestly, I'm gonna, and actually, I hope you're not gonna come for me for this because I know people love this book. I find it similar to Nervous Conditions in age, where they start in their age, right? And this sort of pursuit and push for education. And, okay, I mean, of course, it's not 100% similar, but, and going through that. And then also, I feel like it's similar. Like, it gets to a point where, like, okay, like, we've learned lessons. Let's wrap it up. Especially by the time the grandparents are dying. What are we still? Please do still finish it, guys. If you haven't, please do still finish it. And that's why I think it's similar to Nervous Conditions. And I don't know if you guys so Nervous Conditions, and I know this is not about that book. It's 3 books. I read the first one and then I read the last one. If you are happy in your life, do not go read that last book. Do not, if you write employee, no, actually, if our stable, don't go read it. And because it follows like a day in the life vibe, also similar, and then how everything that has happened now affects you in adult's life. It's where I thought this book was going to go. Like, okay, fine, Kirabo's grown now. Kirabo's found her mother. And that, okay, what next? Okay, she's in boarding school. Okay, what next? It didn't really go anywhere or have like this huge revelation. I'm so sorry to never say if it never's good. The books are good though. The books are good. So I also wanted to talk one more point before. Actually, what time are we supposed to wrap up? Is it an hour or do we have more time?
Hours. We've got until 8:30.
Oh, perfect. You guys have any pressing things you want to touch on? Because I have my talking points, but I don't want to, not have you guys also bring in what you wanted to talk about. Yes, please go ahead. I can't see the name. Silizi, where?
Hi, checking if you can hear me. So,
Yes.
hi everyone. On the nervous conditions plot, I did definitely think that, and I remember making a note somewhere to say, this feels very, very similar to nervous conditions. And like we read nervous conditions and it was okay. We don't need to read it. I read this and I'm like, I don't, like if anyone hasn't read it yet, I don't think you're missing out. Like it's okay. It's not a terrible book. It's not, then it's, the plot is okay. Like you won't die. I don't feel like there's no formal bias. If you missed it, it's okay. I read it. Would I go back if I had to read it again and like decide to read again? No, but like it really did have a lot of similarities to nervous conditions, especially with upbringing and like how you go to school, going to boarding school.
Yes,
the entire thing just was very much nervous conditions.
Yes,
and I love nervous conditions. That's a 5-star read.
Love it. I also do that. Yeah.
This I did give it 3 stars though. Like it's not a terrible book.
It's really not. It's really not a terrible book. So where Nervous Conditions ends and begins the next book in like she's at boarding school now and her challenge is there. And the third book picks up where it's post school now. She's done with university and all of that, and she's now in the working class. This book sort of put it all in one, but really stretched out her early teen years and that. I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying. That's my experience of it.
It was very long-winded. There were things I didn't feel like they were important to the story.
Such as?
If you're watching like a soap opera and like they go to work, it's fine. Okay, it's a soap opera. There's no ending in sight. But like, chop, my babe, you've got 300 pages. Let's make it worthwhile. That's just agreeing on the nervous conditions point.
True. And also because of that, like a lot of the themes are very repetitive. It's almost like we've learned this lesson through this person. And we're almost like experiencing the same lessons through another person. And it's like, okay, no, we can see how, patriarchy affected Alikita, how it affected Nsuta, or how it affected the mother. But like, okay, what else do we have going on? And I don't want to be too harsh on it because we needed that. I still feel like that was relevant too, to still really have that. Also, last thing on the similarities with Never's conditions, in how the men played a role in pushing forward feminism or just pushing the woman forward. I think that's important, even in today's context. We are always talking about how men should be involved in the discussions of women and helping women move forward because, they do benefit from the system. And we need their voices. We do need their voices. And I think that was so clear in both books of how these men really, really pushed them forward, which we really have already commended them for it. All right, cool. I then wanted to talk about the relationship between the two grandmothers, right? And how they started off as besties. And then, so you're going to get a bit of the plot, Kgosi. So basically, these grandmothers were besties back in the day. And then, no, but I already did explain this part, I think. Yeah, I did. Nah. That was the background of basically they fought over a man, guys. I do love because I think, can you see your hand up?
I actually wanted to comment on, I felt like the thing you mentioned about men championing feminism, it's not a thing to like just kind of skate through.
Let's
feel
get
like
into it.
we honestly, we have to be, I'm going to be honest, I generally don't like men. I don't think they're nice people, generally. But like, we do have to be honest that there is a certain amount of give that one man has to do in order for us to have some development as like in feminism. It's crazy because if all the men closed up rank and like nothing would ever change. So there had to be somebody who was like, no, I think this is important, who influences the next person and the next person. So I really value that this picture was painted of positive influence. English men who are positive influences in the movement,
and how they actually really are essential. They cannot sit on the sidelines. They cannot clap and all of this from the sidelines. We genuinely do need them to move the voices because, like it or not, they're the ones who sit in the positions of power. They're the ones who then have access. We might have the vision, we might actually be very capable of executing, but if like they are the people in the positions of decision making, there's only so much rallying we can do just as women. There's only so much, gathering the troops and encouraging each other and pushing this agenda, but without them being intentional about it, and even when they won't benefit from it, because I think that is really important to this. It's not going to work for people who will join only to the extent that I know Ubani can be in my corner. After this, this woman, if I support this cause, I'll get to have mang mang. It's not going to work that way. It needs a level of selflessness. And like we've seen in this book, it was really, really there. And a level of being genuine, which is what was there with who's this, the grandpa Miro. I wanted to go back to CEO, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. And him talking about his comment actually on the genital mutilation. How is that how you say it? It's the pulling that I think I don't know if they still do it in present Uganda, but that was happening then. And his comment on it was, okay, I don't know a lot about it. I haven't experienced it. So please, anybody, please feel free to correct me if my understanding is incorrect on this. His comment on it that actually, no, it's wrong. There's a change in women's bodies happening for the benefit of men, quote unquote, because from what I hear, it is supposed to make sort of sex more pleasurable for the man if you've gone through that pulling. And him being against it when this is supposedly a system that is supposed to, benefit him or make this experience more enjoyable for him. And Kirabo being the one to say no, and being the one to not necessarily support that. For me, expected, but also shocking. I don't know if anybody else agrees with that. If you even remember that part, or by the time we were at that part of the book where we were out. Can you please go ahead?
I mean, I'm not sure. That one is the labia elongation or something, right?
Yes,
I'm not
thank you,
familiar with
thank you,
it
thank
as
you.
much as I am with the usual like female
Yeah. Oh, it's because it is different. Because it is different. Yeah.
So I think the argument that came about, because I'm not as
Mm.
familiar with it, I had to read up on that one,
Mm,
but the argument that came about was because Sia was saying either way, any changing in your body that is unnatural, you shouldn't do it, right? And Usuta had told Kirabo that it is that one practice is actually done for a woman's pleasure as well. Unlike male genital mutilation, that one is done for men's pleasure. So that was her argument that that's the one thing that we actually do that also enhances our pleasure and it's not necessarily just men. So I don't think it's wrong. So that was the argument where he was saying either way, you shouldn't be trying to change your body in any way. So yeah.
I see. I see. Tandoazi? Tandokuhle, sorry.
So I've read extensively about like the stretching of the labia. Essentially,
Teach us
they
about it. I
teach
don't feel
girls
like I
from
know
like the
enough.
age of it's, I mean, there's not much to it, but from around the age of 11 or 12, they teach girls in the bath, like in a warm bath, that you should gently like pull it every
Okay.
day in the bath. And then by the time you get to 20, it's been 10 years of doing that. And so it becomes elongated like that. So it's less of an immediate harm. It's less like a surgery to enhance. And it's more like this like gentle, constant pulling. I do think it causes discomfort because you're literally stretching your skin over time. But not as bad as traditional like genital mutilation. I also love that scene that CEO was like, you shouldn't be doing things that change your body for the purposes of pleasing men. And what I love is how, I think it was Nsuta who was, I don't know whether it was Nsuta or Aunt Abby, I don't remember, who was saying, it's pointing to the place that men need to find, that they struggle to find. So you're like creating this like pleasure for yourself. I think it was a very important like showing of CEO's intentions, wishes to be a kind of more like in line with feminism in terms of thinking. I also think it shows how we sometimes will co-opt ideas and take them and own them so that we can remove the power from them. So that whether or not it's a valid thing to do, the fact that I think I'm doing it for myself is so important to, I don't know, self-development and even development of the movement.
No, true. That is absolutely true. The intent matters. The intent matters, and more so than the origin of a thing. And that's very relevant to the type of story that this is, that if you are still then going to practice traditional things whom we know have their origins in, patriarchy, if you're still going to do that, then your intent now has to be you-centered. And I really do, I see your perspective. To me?
Yeah, I think I also don't know much about what is it, labia elongation, right? But I appreciated what was shared in the book and the different perspectives, right? From seeing looking at it from that point, that you shouldn't have to do this for a man. Whereas it was Aunt Abby Tendeka who was telling Kirabo that no, this is not for the man's pleasure. It is to teach the man to pleasure you. It's on page 136. I literally underlined almost everything in there that Aunt Abby was saying, because she was trying to get it to Kirabo that traditionally they're saying it's for the man, so that you are good and ready for him and he enjoys you. But this is really for you to enjoy it. And Aunt Abby was trying to tell her that don't look at it as like ruins. That's how Kirabo was always taught about her lady friend down there. It's like, no, this is about you preparing your flower to satisfy you. And I like how she said that we do it so that men can be inept. And then she ends it to say that if you end up with an inept man, my darling, take your bags and come back home, because an inept husband is a life sentence. You see, so I like how she was helping her to see it from a different perspective. And I think that's what Aunt Abby was about. Like, listen, these things, they've always been there, they'll probably always be there, but let's look at it, and they're always there to benefit men. But look at it, my baby, from a point that benefits you,
and she can also
and
enjoy.
this is what it means. You know, so
I see.
yeah. So I actually enjoyed that
part of it.
lesson, and I think I'll also now just go and learn. Yeah. So I love Aunt Abby. Beautiful. 136, page 136.
Was with the perfect. I like that you even have it like there. I want to talk about Aunt Abby a bit more. We've said some people have their strong points and their flaws. I actually want to start with, what did we feel Aunt Abby's flaws were? Because her excellent qualities are so easy to point out. But what did we think her flaws were actually? So for those who don't know, and Abby, I think is she a third child? Born, she might be like the third aunt, and she's the one who then said, "Listen, I'm not going in line with this. Number two, yes, thank you. This whole get married, have kids, and things like this." I'll go first. What I think one of her flaws were her rejecting the new Makoti. I think that was flawed, because she stood for feminism and stood for so many things, and yet would not accept this new woman and how she chooses to live life and what her marriage means to her and her husband. She spoke such vile things about the new wife. I forget her name. I really do. Wait. I don't know if I understood this correctly. Can we just going back to the new wife? Was the new wife and Kirabo's mother sisters? What was happening there actually? Can somebody please balance me, because Nambi, yes. What was happening there actually? Yes. Can somebody please balance, because I was so confused. Like, I feel like that's what they were pointing at. Guys, go ahead. Let's chat about that actually.
On that one, I found that to be very much there's this thing Akwaeke Emezi likes to do in their writing, where they just want to give you shit value. Like, we didn't need that. We did not need that. You just wanted to shout us. Well, we shocked, I guess, but we didn't need that. They can't have been sisters, guys. It's too much of a coincidence for me to buy into it. I'm sorry. No. Doesn't mean he has a type. Doesn't mean he has a type. Sure, but no. I'm lowering my rating. My rating is going
because also that the hate is valid. Like, the hate is valid. This is my sister's child with an ex-man. Like, hello, and I went to marry that man. They made it sound like this weird, but that was unnecessary. Anyway, sorry, Mbali, your hand is up. I'm just trying to talk to people who haven't really spoken a bit.
No, it's not really up, but I was gonna say something similar to Sizwe. That whole thing, I was like, no, it's giving me time to make something up, but it's not planning, it's not combining, because it doesn't make sense. This woman, this new wife, I guess the only wife to Tom, pretty much, just did not like Kirabo from the beginning, and you're telling me they're sisters. So are you trying to tell me the sisters never really liked each other? Like, then you're missing, like, you're telling me there's missing puzzles, because why don't you ever speak about that relationship? Like, we don't know what's going on.
No, but they did touch on it. Wasn't like the dad was
the dad
busy.
touched on it, as in, like, he just told that's when he delivered the news to Kirabo, who's your mother. But it's not a thing of, oh no, like, they never liked each other as sisters, and that's why maybe it's a thing of, oh no, Tom didn't know that.
But then they look. Tom has a type. Tom has a type.
Yeah. But I think it was one of those, because that's when they deliver the news, like, oh, this is where your mother is, and then it's like, oh wait, but the mother is a sister to what? But then it's not giving shocking. It's giving
Yeah. No, but the part that I was referring to was Nambi's mother, Who no, she was the Begazella queen because her story. I'm sorry, which Nambi's one. And I feel like we're losing the plot too much now because we'll go back to firstly the sisters. I don't think she was valid for hating her niece. Yeah, sure, this is your husband's child with your older sister. But there's absolutely no reason for you to have rejected. Sorry, guys. Sandra, good. Your hand is up.
So what I understood, they tried to paint the picture that Ulavencia, the birth mother, disappeared after having the baby. And so the relationship with Nambi was not there. So what I understood is that Nambi didn't even know her sister had a baby necessarily. And if she did, she didn't know, like they were not in touch anymore. She just disappeared. So I was like, it's a stretch, but I guess it could happen.
Yeah, it's very locked in by scope. Like,
yes.
You know what? They always have those stories. I'm aware, like the twins, and then they find each other. Good, they actually like it really gave that. That story was just weird. Kangelwa.
I'm going to comment on the on Aunt Abby on the Makoti. Well, yeah, that felt a bit off, but I could understand her slightly because when someone comes to your family as an outsider and then they come and make the rules that now you don't have access to your brother suddenly, that can be uncomfortable. So I could understand where her bitterness was coming from. But also you I mean the way that she treated Kirabo, while she married Tom, knowing that Kirabo was out of line. I feel like maybe she really is a horrible person, as the aunt is kind of describing. But there wasn't much about her for us to be for me to be able to conclude that she's really a mean person, other than her treatment of Kirabo and her behavior and her asking Kirabo to sleep with her father. That didn't sound like someone who's kind.
Yeah, that was a cold
someone that I would also enjoy to be around. So that was uncomfortable, and yeah,
that was wicked. Actually, not a
out of line.
See, I know you're beyond confused, but at some point, the stepmother says, basically, no, she puts her in bed, or she tells her, but she actually says, basically,
she
have sex with her father.
her to go to sleep in her dad's
the father's naked
bedroom. I don't know if she was implying go sleep with him or have sex, but the way that Tom read it, yeah, it was out of line. Initially, I thought she just maybe did not wanna interact with Tom and just wanted some privacy, and then she was just switching rooms. But then when the whole thing unfolded, it felt like she's saying Kirabo is your wife because she's living in our house, which was childish and mean and all sorts of evil. So and Abby might have been right about her from that perspective.
From that perspective, that honestly she wasn't. No. Good point. Silizwe. Oh, so Silizwe.
So on Nambi, the one time where I did felt I kind of slightly sympathize with her is that granted, yes, she didn't like her husband's child. She wasn't consulted, guys. Imagine you come home to your house and someone has moved into your house. No one has spoken to you about anything. You're literally coming home and it's like, oh no. Granted, it is his child. Yes, I definitely think she should be living with him. But the way that was wrong in taking her anger out on the child, definitely, because your man is the right. But and that is the one time where I slightly heard where she's coming from. But I wanted to circle back to Nambi's mom. There was a specific scene where Nambi and her mom are talking. She's basically going on about all the qualms she has about her marriage, and then his mom says, tells her, opens up to her about all the bad things her dad did, like your father slept with everyone in the country, cheated multiple times. Oh, that man was terrible, but anyway. So she's talking about all these things, And then she actually says, like, the mother says that your father is like wide awake with worry about you, you know? And then Nambi's like, why? And the dad says, you shouldn't be unhappy. And he feels like he shouldn't be unhappy because you are his princess. No man should make you cry. And then the mom says, but I was my father's princess too. That's when I was like, damn. And she's not wrong because she was her father's princess too. But yeah, no, that's one time I was like, yo, no, the woman in this book went through a lot.
Yes. I have so many points that I actually, before I forget, I want to talk about Nambi's father, but maybe we can circle back. But specifically, which we just said, in how this man turns around and has all this concern for his daughter, now that his daughter's the one who's going through it. And it reminded me of this quote of men feeling like their daughters are sort of reparations. Please remind me of the quote if anyone remembers it, for their own sins. It gave me something like that. Oh, now that, like, you know, in fact, every time we have this chat about like men not treating women right, we always have to say, but what if it happens to your daughter? And all of a sudden it has struck home. But they don't see it in any other perspective except for that. So no, that was a really, really good point, and reminding us about that. In going back to Auntie Abby and Nambi not being consulted. One,
Before you,
oh yes,
sorry, I don't wanna cut you, but I just want to ask you on this because I think what you're raising is important, right? Because it's one thing to have the girl child and then be like, oh, I'm gonna do better, and you do better. But I find, and I'm speaking from my experience with my boys, for example, where I've had these conversations where they were, I mean, I would never recommend any of my friends to marry or date any of the guys I went to varsity with. It's a hell no, right? Yeah. And then they're girl children, and then suddenly it's like, oh, you know, I how I used to treat women, and then they still go on to be shitty human beings, though, and you're like, last week you were cheating on your wife, and it's like this disconnect where it's like you still don't see women's humanity, right? It's like we're not equal to you, we're subhuman still, even though you say, oh, you know, I now value women more because I have a daughter, but it's not, it doesn't result in like changed behavior, which is useless.
No, that is true. It really doesn't result in changed behavior. They pray their daughters are an exception to the very things they do. So they can acknowledge that, oh my God, men are horrible and I've done horrible things. But my child, I hope this doesn't happen to them. That's all they have to contribute to this chat. Nothing about it's in fact the same thing as a girl child. You must keep yourself and, you know, be good for marriage. But as a boy child, we expect you to go out there and basically, you know, do the most. And the question I've always had, whose child should be the one that is practice for your son? Whose daughter is it that, you know? And I remember, I think my grandma also used to say this, like, so you can't go out there like those girls out there, but it's okay for my boys to do it. Kanjani, who do you expect your boys to be out there with? Like, you know, and my aunt used to say, but like the boys next door also need girls, so let these ones go. She was an instigator, that one. But that's the chat, like, who do we expect? We can be so like pro something when it's your immediate family member, but as soon as it's out there, it's anonymous. Let God's will or let what happens in the earth happen. But there's an in-chat message that I've just read that I really want to bring back, which Thandubuhle just said. She says, it's important that Nambi said she won't raise another woman's child because a man wouldn't do it, so why should she? She was championing equality here and was rejected by progressive women. That child didn't deserve that treatment. Exactly. And this definitely is one of Auntie Nambi's flaws. She gave me the Musadi wa Malume type of feel. I don't know if you guys know that stereotype. She really gave me that, where we hate Musadi wa Malume, but will not criticize Malume for his actions and the ways in which he's treating her, and by extension, you know, the entire family. but because we are benefiting from malume, because usually they are, more financially stable and are able to do certain things, any anger we have in not having access to those resources then goes towards this new Musadi wa malume. Like, can your hand is up? Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I still take issue with that, because if that's your response, right? I still say then don't marry a man with a child. It's a different thing if he has the child once you're married or he hid the child, but he has a child, because my argument is always I never know what's going to happen. Even if the child lives with grandparents or another relative, and which is the case, right? With grandparents, usually they'll live with their grandparent or their mother. What happens in the event that that person dies who's taking care of the child? Now, I've got children in my house who live with me in my house, and another child must live in poverty because I've married somebody. Like, I think Tom was a coward. It's not even a Nambi issue. Tom was a coward. I would never, if I have children, marry somebody who says, your child can't live in my house. Because if the child lives with somebody else, their father, for example, what happens when that father passes away? And I've got children with you. Now, my children are living a good life. My child will have to pay somewhere else and struggle. I don't want my child. I mean, I don't, from a fairness perspective, I think if you had a child when they were married and he cheated on her or he had hidden the child, I would agree, be like, no. But you can't have a position and then also say, I think there's a level of accountability that we also have to have where we say, I'm not going to be with a person where I have to take care of another person's child. Then don't go and have a man with the child. Because even if another parent is present, you never know what life can throw at you. And for you to then deprive another child of having a parent, because it just doesn't make sense.
No,
but I understand the position that men get away with murder. And me, I'm always going to say men. That's why I said Tom is the problem. I said Tom.
But you made a good point. It's
from coward position. I've never married her. When there was a position, she said, "I'm not marrying you. Peace out."
Yes. No, I love that point. And actually, you've just reminded me of something that my friend usually says, that I was studied as feminists.
Not that. Sorry.
Oh, yes. Please go ahead.
Sorry, it was accidental. Please finish.
Oh, yeah. Our standard our standard as women cannot be the wrongs of men. We cannot want to be in equal stance to the wrongs of men. Yes, a man wouldn't take in a woman's child with another father into their home, which is something we see all the time, where these kids get left behind while this woman remarries and lives there. But that still creates trauma anyway. But our stance, and I really like that you put it up, cannot be that we want to be equal in our wrongs with their wrongs. Like, that cannot be the pursuit of feminism or equality, that we should all be equally allowed to make the same wrongs. But great points. I don't remember who raised their hands first. So please just go ahead. I'll go with.
Okay, I'm not sure who, but
Okay.
my opinion is that if you're not the parent in the marriage, or you're not the one with the child that comes in, you shouldn't be the one making the call whether the child joins the family or not, whether you are a man or you are a woman. Even if you're a woman, you shouldn't let your potential husband decide for you that your children are not going to live for you. As the parent, you own the child, so you are responsible. So you cannot say, but my husband didn't know that the kids do not belong to the husband. So at that point in time, that's why you decide, well, if my children are not coming, the marriage is over. Of which, in this case, Tom did ask the wife to leave because she didn't accept the child, and then the grandmother just came to intervene to save the marriage, because she got a message that Tom's marriage is falling apart. But Tom was right, but I do feel that in the way that he addressed this whole thing, it was wrong, because he didn't speak to his wife before bringing Kirabo. I mean, she was there, that's fine, but then I think the conversation and the fight between the two of them should have happened way before Kirabo comes, and then they agree and conclude on it, and then she comes, not bring her and then expect her to put up with the meanness from the wife, and then him being mean towards her in front of the children as well. That was out of line. So I think the person who's the parent in the scenario
did make them. No, that's a great point. I don't know if you're still speaking, but it went down on my side. And I actually wanted to point out that I feel like Tom was a hypocrite. And then once that incident happens, he now wants to leave this marriage when he never chose Kirabo in the first place. He never chose a girl at all and was, I think, quote unquote, sort of forced into having Kirabo be there because she only went to go live with him because Ukirabo had defied the grandmother. And they're like, okay, this child is getting out of hand. Let's put her in a different context where we feel we can better control her and, control the education she gets and things like that. So he never chose Ukirabo. And I felt like it was too late. And possible that his motives could have been any other thing. You find he wanted to leave anyway, and this was the opportunity for it. Because there were so many ways in between that he never advocated for Kirabo from the moment he brought her there. All the way up there, he just said, make it work. He wasn't active he wasn't a good liaison in this relationship, in getting these two to get along. I don't think he was very intentional about even the kids getting along well, or just creating that relationship. And then, Chigi, I'm leaving this marriage because you're rejecting my child. Kanjani, like, that didn't make sense to me. It actually didn't make sense to me that was his stance. And I don't know if if that reaction was also not a stretch, like with people, or maybe he was just angry. I don't know. Mbadi?
Just Tando, did you want to say something before? Sorry, I don't want to jump in.
Oh, yes. Tando, I did have a hand up, yeah.
Thanks. It's very brief. I wanted to say, I think, I'm shifting towards the side of, prioritizing the children. I do think we shouldn't want to be equal in wrong with men. But I do think someone has to champion the privilege of being as right as men. Because it's also to say women are held to a higher standard of things. It's counterproductive. But as a woman who has a child who expects to find a partner who will take me, I absolutely believe that the child has to always be the priority. I think I just empathized a bit with Nambi because she was trying to push this thing of like, listen, you wouldn't have taken me if I had a child, so why do I have to take you? But absolutely, you guys have, like Kenny and Bongo Piwe, those ideas are so important to not prioritize the wrongness of men and say we want to be as wrong as them.
True. But it is a privilege to be able to make mistakes or make certain choices and not be judged. And that privilege has been mostly afforded to men, which I guess in aiming for equality, we want the privilege to make mistakes too. And so I also really do hear the chat. Bali, please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to speak on like the woman to woman kind of thing where Nambi's, niece, she's Kirabo, and the Kirabo's mother, who is her sister, and how I don't know if she was rejecting the child or she was rejecting the idea of you wouldn't have married me if I had a child myself, or she was even having an issue with the fact that there's another woman who gave you a child, if that makes sense. So what I watch these YouTube channels where people have had kids, previous partners, and it's such a battle to get the fathers to be present in the kids' lives because the woman is just like, no, I'm not entertaining that. There was a story that just once trended where the man actually sent a text to the child to say, sorry, I have enough on my plate. I can't be a parent to you right now. Right? And it later came on that, it's the wife and the man who's just like, listen, dude, like you have to decide who you're going to parent. You can't be a parent to all these kids. Right? And it's shocking because then I feel like it does have an element of, and I'm not trying to I guess create a scenario where I'm like, women are always in each other's, faces and trying to fight and woman to woman kind of vibes. But I do think we do get into situations where we want to play oblivion or just kind of act ignorant to the situation that we're walking into. So you rather act like this person doesn't exist with their child, with whoever, because you can't be a parent to this child without interacting with the other woman. That's the thing. So that's why I can't relate if she was rejected the child, or she was not comfortable with the fact that, you know, I didn't have kids, or she was rejecting the other woman would have to be part of this marriage now because you can't take the kid without the other mother, right? But yeah, it's just a quick one. It also reminds me of what Auntie Nsuka Suta, yes, said when Kirabo was about to go to boarding school. She's like, don't hurt other women. Another woman. I was like, yeah, that's right. So I do think there is an indirect kind of undertone inflicting pain on each other when we decide to reject the kids, whatever gender that they are, because there's an element of, it's not just the child alone, it's the child with the, you know, with the partner, with the family. There's just more to it than just the standalone human being that's in the picture. Yeah.
But Nambi didn't face the same challenges of the baby mama wanting to be involved because, you know, that mother didn't care a damn.
Yeah, and I think
so
that's what we don't have, right? So we don't have an understanding of their relationship wasn't even there to have even had like a, listen, it's not just a reject of Kirabo, it's a reject of me, my sister also, or it's just you, or it's just the fact that, no, listen, I came in here with no kids, I'm not about to have kids. And, yeah.
No, makes sense.
I think with regards to Tom and just the whole thing with Kirabo and Nambi, I think when Kirabo reflects towards the end of the book, I like how she actually put it to say that the women in Tom's life idolized him, which is why Tom felt it was okay for him to just make the decisions that he made. You know, Tom felt that it was okay for him to disregard his mother, Alikisa's views that he shouldn't go and visit Nsuta. And he was like, well, deal with it. I'm going to visit her because she raised me for however many years. And that's why he also felt entitled to say to Nambi that, listen, yeah, I didn't tell you that my daughter's coming, but listen, lady, she's coming. She's my daughter at my house. She's coming. You know, so I liked how Kirabo reflected on that. And that made sense. You know, it talks to the privilege of patriarchy and just the kind of privilege that men in general tend to have, and how it is mostly is it advocated or pushed by women. So yeah, that for me felt it made a lot of sense. I agree. Like, let's talk about Kirabo and Gibwa, because
yes, we're gonna
I think
jump
it also
that
yeah. I think it also ties into the grandmothers as well, because it takes us back to the fact that the grandmothers fought over a man, and even Kirabo and Gibwa fought over a man, and we always want to be validated by a man. And if he validates me more than you, then that makes me more worthy, more, you know, I have more value and that sort of thing, that because of a man, then it's that pull her down syndrome instead of, you know, let's uplift each other as women and whatever. Yes. So it's, yeah, for me, it just goes back to that. And I just, like, that's one of the problems
that in this book.
I think, which is
and
like we said, Jennifer just trying to show us the problem with
patriarchy. This book was meant to be analyzed, guys. It was not for the plot. It was just meant to be analyzed, and we speak on social issues, which I'm enjoying, by the way. And before we continue on to Gibwa and Kirabo's friendship, I wanted to touch on the comment that you made to me that says Jen really made Nambi a difficult character to either love or hate. I just floated between not liking her or how she treated Kirabo, to loving her for standing her ground on what she wanted in marriage, to sympathizing with her for Tom and his family's terrible treatment of her. I felt, firstly, the family were hypocrites in their treatment of Nambi post the death of Tom. And also, I feel like they were, again, going back to that Musadi wa Malume thing. They finally said, yeah, yeah, this man is dead. Now we can finally sort of give you that treatment that we've always wanted to give you, but we couldn't because your husband was still alive and present. Kgosi, the father dies at some point, so that's how that happens. I'm just trying to keep you in the loop. And so when the father dies, they basically strip her of everything, with the exception of like really small things. Um, and in that, I then still want to go back into also Tom being a coward in him not protecting his wife. And I feel like with death also, you must be so intentional about certain things, like what happens after post-death. Are my things in order so that my wife and kids are protected? Should I die? He didn't do that. And I think it's just good that the family he has still said, okay, here's a little something for the kids. But should you get married again, we're taking it back. You can have this house, but they still restricted her so much, which was unfair. I felt like it was so unfair, especially in a family of feminists, when they say if the marriage is hard, come back home. If this is the da 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 da, and yet they still imposed such a restrictive lifestyle on her. That was my last point before we move on to give up. But Mbali, please go ahead.
Kangela, you might have gone before me. Do you want to go?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't see that.
No worries.
Yeah, I did. So I just wanted to comment on the bit where they distribute the assets to the kids and then the mother benefits because of the kids. I feel like it might work in a way because even if she might be given these things and then she leaves and finds another husband, who the assets and becomes irresponsible, whatever. Whereas if they give the assets to their kids, it's a bit of a protection and insurance for them because at the end of the day, women do these things, take the husband's wife after the husband dies, get a new boyfriend, and then the children have nothing thereafter, and then they refuse to take those children in. So them attaching the assets to the kids was kind of, I felt it was responsible. I know that she is the adult in the scenario. She should be making these calls, but sometimes adults make bad decisions, especially when they haven't being responsible for certain things, and then suddenly boom, you have money, you have assets, and then a lot can go wrong. So giving them to the kids with her to run for their benefit felt like a good thing, but I know that it can be wrong in a way because also the boy that was now being handed the responsibility of being the head of the family was 8 years old. I was like, what? So that didn't make sense at all. The women were older. The man who's supposed to be the man of the house is a child. So that didn't work well, and they had to kind of do things differently, and it felt a bit of an odd. And then it's a fault in the patriarchy system or whatever, how that they have designed it. So it's got weaknesses in such cases. And sometimes the 8-year-old boy can be an adult, but an irresponsible adult, but maybe they're just the only male, and then they're supposed to just take all this money and be responsible for everyone, and a lot can go wrong.
So true. Sometimes patriarchy defies sense. Like, really, what is an 8-year-old going to do being the head of the family? He doesn't know much. There isn't anything he could have done. And the willingness of those men who were in the council, or I don't know what they call that gathering that they had, to say, we'd rather have an 8-year-old run this household, quote unquote, 'cause what running is he going to do? But have the title of head of house instead of giving the role to literally somebody who's responsible and can like run this. Whom we haven't spoken about, and I don't know if we'll get a chance. Is that first daughter actually? The other daughter, because there was another daughter who had got married, and I really liked her perspective. But I know, Mbali and Kangelo, do you guys still have something on this point, or moving on?
No, I just wanted to touch on a small point on the will part in what Katlego said in the chat, that Abby said he should draft a will, Tom should draft a will, and he was like, that invites it. But it touches on something interesting that I really highly believe in, where Kirabo also like realizes after like all the assets are distributed, he's like, actually this man didn't have much. Like he wasn't as wealthy. Like we all glorified him. Like he was this man. He ain't got nothing but this half-finished house, you know. And it actually it there's a point where it points out, this is where I appreciate Jennifer, because I guess she's out here to educate us. The point about how poverty and wealth are just construct, and they look different in rural and urban areas, because at the end of the day, those assets and the quote will was on the estate was being unwinded by the rural people, right? So now they were now, like, I guess, administrating what happens to his assets. But he's from the city. He was living this whole city life, and everybody was looking up to him. He has his cars and stuff. He ain't got nothing. He ain't got
And it crashed that
the
car
land he
anyway.
has is his father's land.
No, good point. When it's starting, you had your hand up. Do you still want to say something? Okay. Please, you guys are having a nice chat there in the about Giba, and I'm having FOMO. I'm gonna read the messages. I was having so much FOMO seeing all of them. One, I'm gonna read Esther's comment. I think for Giba, it wasn't about Sayo, but more about having something that was Kirabo's. She envied her life, actually. One, Kirabo lacked awareness. I felt like she lacked awareness on her wealth and how that affected her. Like that, she was really wealthy. Like she knew, but I felt like she really no man. She had a whole house that she was granted, and she was shoving it in this child's face. So they were young, but I think I understand why she acted that way. Somebody saying something? Sorry, I thought I'd seen a hand. All right, I'm gonna go on to the next one with Giba. I don't agree with how she went about it. That the way to get through to Kirabo was in through this man, CEO. That if I get him, then I've won, because there's no winning. There is absolutely no winning when the prize is a man. It's a man, guys. No shit to the men on the chat, but like, Asminanga, if that is what the battle is. And I was sad to see sort of history repeat itself in the sense of from the grandmothers and their story to now happening to these two. Because with these two, I don't think they would have reconciled, right? They really would have reconciled. But I was quite interested in Giba's means to getting this man. She said, I'm going to learn that English, girl. I'm going to educate myself. That's what is desirable to men. And that's then, how I'm going to make myself be it. And I can understand then how, like, jarring it was. Now she's here. Girl, what's happening with the accent and all of that? I thought Kirabo was judgmental. And that she became the type of woman we don't like. Like, a inner misogynist came out there as soon as Gibo and CEO were, in the picture. Tandawuhle, please go ahead.
Yeah, when I think about this relationship, I actually think Miguel, what's her name, Kirabo was like the white girl in a race issue. She was the white girl in this relationship. She doesn't have the understanding, Yoguti, how your access makes your life a little bit different to mine, and kind of expected Dubois to have the same dreams and same aspirations. And meanwhile, she saw herself limited and was limited by her circumstance. They had a conversation in the beginning where I think it was Dubois, who said to her, your people bought my people as slaves or something like that.
Yes,
and she was like, my life is completely different from what your life could be. And I empathize with Kirabo, because it's almost like there's no way for her to know that unless she actively and intentionally knows it. It kind of reminded me of those. Have you seen that a company is making those desks that are like bags that you can, for grade ones, and it's impractical for the people who have to use those things, but to the hero it's like, I've made this magical thing for you. And at the end there, when Dubois like refused to accept reconciliation, it was the first time that I felt like, okay, I kind of see where she's coming from. She did a terrible thing, but it was this like, yeah. That's them.
Mm,
I don't know what else to say, but it's so
don't
hard
have
to say I have a solution. I don't have one.
I don't have one. It's true. There was a lack of intersectionality from Kirabo in understanding poverty because she didn't grow up in it. You know, she might have been rural, but they were wealthy. They were well off in their family compared to everybody else. And also the anger of ill-gotten wealth. You know, my people were taken in as slaves. And to this day, I think the standards were they were still working for them in some capacity. It might not have been slaves anymore, but they still held the role of the power and the other. Also, I've been saying Gibwa, guys. I pronounced it South African. Gibwa also seems to be the right pronunciation, but I'm going with Gibwa, okay? Um, Ill-begotten wealth and how.
It's interrupt. It was the pronunciation on the audio book. That's all.
Thank you for that. Gibwa. I'm gonna go with Gibwa because that's probably the right one. Um, there hasn't been a resetting. The wealth then didn't get equally distributed. Sure. In this present day, they're no longer slaves to these people, but they still work for them anyway, for them to survive and for them to live. And I could understand their hate of that. Lakeni?
Thanks, Tando, for the Ivoire, because now we don't want Ivoire. Thanks for the audio book, because we're clearly embarrassing ourselves.
This entire call, you guys.
Yeah. So, I wanted to. I think you talked about Esther's point, right? About how it was. I don't think it wasn't like the grandmothers where there's a pact, and like I think hers was from a place of like jealousy and having been like downtrodden and oppressed and stuff. And so hers was a bit like the same idea, I think, about how an oppressed person finds somebody else to oppress, right? So you like you hit down essentially. But you know, she got her lick back with Kirabo, with the CEO thing. So it's, you know how I'm always confused when women talk about fake friends, because I'm always like, how does that happen? I saw it in this book. I was like, oh, this is how it happens, because it really didn't make sense to me how you could do that to your friend and own it also, because it didn't feel like it was a mistake to her. It was like, you always treated me badly. I always felt like I was on the back foot, and then I got you, kind of thing. So I think Esther's point about this wasn't one of those we're competing for a man because I genuinely like him, but more as a young Bonisa, you know, I'll show you.
I finally got a one up.
Yeah, it was just, yeah. So
which then takes me back to the grandmothers, and I really want to talk about their fights. I feel to a certain extent, Alikisa, which is Kirabo's grandmother, was the duff for the longest time of their friendship. You know, the duff is like, you know, the ugly duckling in the friendship. And Nsuta was, you know, the star. She was smarter. I think she also was her family wealthy. I don't even remember. No. I don't remember the dynamics of it, of Nsuta's family background. But she was smarter. Whereas the other one, her father was a priest, you know, and it was like, oh, okay. And so under the conditions through which she got married, it was almost as if Nsuta was always more, what is the word, deserving to marry Miro, you know, because, you know, Nsuta is smarter, she's prettier, she's more educated. Therefore, a good man like Miro deserves to be with. In fact, it's unfathomable even for him to have chosen or the other one, because really, what does she have? You know, her family's not that great. She barely is making it through school. And from what they're insinuating looks wise, you know, she wasn't all that. Which is why then I felt that in that marriage, she made sure her value is known through her work. When they're talking about the work that grandmother was doing, I was like, hi, even in her old age, she was still serving that man. She was the one like really doing the most to then show her value. I feel like she was working or earning his love, only for him to still go sneaky link with the other one anyway. But I do want to hear you guys' perspective on their fight and how that friendship developed, and even their reconciliation, actually. Go ahead, Bali.
So firstly, I don't know if it was really ever a fight. I think those letters just I don't know if I would call it really like a fight. I just feel like they grew distance, and the circumstances of I guess what they placed them in kind of put them. It's like, we were young and we made these decisions, but we didn't know all the different scenarios that would come into play. And now they did, and now we have to react like point in time. And our reactions are not towards the pact per se. Like now, Alikisa is having real feelings for this man. She thought she would just be the side wife, the second wife, who would just compliment Nsuta, but then she realizes, I kind of like him. And then she makes peace with the fact that this man has never loved me in the first place. Like this man, actually, our marriage happened as a result of our father's like, you know what, we need to come together because these people, whatever. And then she was like, oh my God, I'm actually, so she was more excited when she was being pursued because she was like, oh my God, you're going to get your man. Yes, you're going to be in nothing school and stuff, but I'm going to keep your man for you. And I think the reconciliation wasn't really like, it's like we were forced into it. Now there's a baby in picture, and we kind of agreed we'll share this man. So I guess let's do it. And now the kids grow up, and then they find out now it's like a awkward thing because now we have two mothers, and this one has the child. Also, who's Tom's mother?
It was Alikisa. So the pact was, yeah, I think so.
I think I missed that. I got confused because I was like, she had a miscarriage, and then just after that, Nsuka is pregnant. So then I'm like, and then Tom, and then she just gave Tom to
the other one. I don't know.
I'm confused about who's the the biological. Sorry, the biological. Yeah.
Can I clarify quickly? So what happened was the child, the biological parent, is Nkamiro, but she actually gave the child to Nsuta because Nsuta had a miscarriage. It was like, okay, no, like you need to have a child to also raise a child of your own.
Okay, get that. Okay.
So the pact, for those who haven't gotten through, was that when they were kids, they said they're going to marry the same man. Basically, they're going to be sister wives because they loved each other so much. Which for me is like, sometimes friendship can be your first real love is in friendship. Like that's your true love. And I hate that sisterhood, that your life, sometimes your life partner, the love of your life is your friend. That's what they had. That's how much they loved each other. And then when now it came a time for that pact to come into life, it didn't make sense. I also still stand though in my point that it didn't make sense for Alikisa to be the side wife. To be the second wife, but this is your man, and I'll play a supporting role. I don't like that in friendship. I feel in friendship, you must value me and see me as equals, so much so that I am not a side character in your life, right? We are in this life thing together, and I felt like it was going there, man. Like, but what do you mean I'm keeping your man for you once you're done with school? Excuse me, and she really did try him. She really did try to sort of make all of that work, but it never went there. Tando?
So I think it was in the last chapter where Kirabo finally gets the balls to ask Nsuta, the bravery to ask Nsuta about like what happened. Did grandmother actually kill your baby? And what I understood from that conversation, the way that Nsuta answered, she said, your grandmother found me to be immoral, and she didn't want men traipsing in and out of the house in front of Tom, and that's why I took Tom. So when everyone's saying they fought over a man, I'm like, I don't think that's it. They were sharing this man.
True.
If there was jealousy, there were challenges, but I felt like they were sharing this man. At the beginning, they talk about Miro would come with packs of meat, and it would be split between the two houses, and grandmother would cook both meats and send it. So to me, I understood that they were getting along
Mm.
with a little bit of jealousy. And then this thing of Nsuta being this free spirit that like sleeps
Mm.
around
Yeah.
then
Oh,
made
girl was
grandmother upset.
getting it.
I don't know. But maybe, I mean, I think there is an element of like, I don't know, I think
think
some jealousy.
No, you are so correct in your point, and I don't know if this was intentional in the book, but wasn't that the reputation anyway? That they fought over this man, and that was the cause of their friendship breakup. And even us who read the book and still got the detail of what actually happened, I forgot. I actually forgot that they clarified when they told us their perspective of what the fight actually caused. What caused the fight? It was never about Miro. Actually, it wasn't. It was about Ntuta's choices now, and which I understood. She's like, if Tom gets to have two wives, why can't I have more than one man? I mean, get it, girl, you know. And so oh my god, oh my god, which actually takes me back to Ntuta's reputation as the village witch, in how and back to the storytelling, that stories that people tell about you will often really overshadow what really happened. And even the people who know the truth would rather still go with the story that is convenient. Who was the village gossip? Yeah, Canada was the village gossip because she was very important in perpetuating a certain narrative about certain people. By years. And that narrative would often be favored over the truth, even by people who knew the truth. They wouldn't stand up to say, no, but this is what actually happened. If Diba said this is what happened, best believe that is what happened. Oh my God, no, thank you for reminding us of that, Tando. Lakini, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say when you were talking about how, like, even with community, right, and society, how it doesn't allow you to not conform, right? 'Cause you can't, you don't get to escape, and the rest of us still have to be oppressed, right? If we can't all escape, we're not going to make it easy for you. So I think even with this argument and the rumors that were being spread, it was, you couldn't just let Unsuta just get to make her own choices. It was like, oh, this happened to her because she's a witch and she bewitched Umiro, and that's why he came back, and these unfortunate things are happening to her because she's a witch, you know. So you have to create a narrative, because otherwise how else do you teach future generations of young women not to do what you like, to not rebel, essentially, because that's how you do it, right? You instill a fear and a consequence to be like, if you don't do this, there'll be a negative consequence. And if you don't have that, then everybody just kind of can do whatever they want. So I think some of these stories, exactly that, we create these stories in order to make people fall in line and not rebel
And
against
not
status quo.
about you, and will perpetuate the narrative, even pointing them as a witch, just so that if they don't become what we tell them to be. No, but thank you. I know we have like 3 minutes left. Firstly, thank you everybody for the engagement. I absolutely loved that discussion. The girlies are very nuanced, okay, and I really, really enjoyed that. Even the comment, I have so much FOMO in the chat because when somebody else is chatting and we're all just reading and interacting there, it's fun. But I've been trying to read through the chats. Those were really, really, really good points that were being made, and I appreciated everybody's engagement. Does anybody have some final words, final review on it, like quick, fast on it? I know we do like a wraparound. Jose, you're gonna read the book. Actually, let me start there.
Not now. There's so much going on.
There's
I
a
need
lot.
a light, cute,
Yeah.
and I need a light, cute book that's gonna suck me in
I then
and just think at the moment.
Oh, ratings.
Apparently,
Yes, we need to do ratings. Sorry, Kgosi. So ratings, guys. Can we just go? I'll give it 3. I'll give it 3. It was a good read. I feel like we could have really good discussions, but it could have been shorter. We could have wrapped around it shorter, and I feel like we could have had the same discussion with a better plot, because that is the essence of a book. Had we just wanted to discuss these things, we could have read an essay or some other discussion on it. Ratings and final words. Anybody else? We'll just go.
I just saw a 5. Yo.
Wow, you're very generous.
Oh, me.
I might say I'm not shocked because Dumi kept referring to Jennifer Makumbi as Jen in the comments. So.
They're besties. Okay. Please, guys, let's get ratings so we can wrap it
Four
up.
and a half from Thandobuhle.
Okay, I'll just call up names. Like, can you please give us your rating?
I was 3.
Okay, 3. Reasoning, quick one.
I think they're better feminist books, honestly. Yeah, this book didn't have a plot. It drags, Shim.
Yeah, okay. Silizwe.
I came in with a 3.25, but actually that 0.25 is gone now. It's a 3. It's a 3.
It's a 3. All right, Bali.
Yeah, I came in with and I hate it because I kind of think I like Jennifer also, but then yeah, I was like, this book, the 2. So 2 point something, but I'm leaving with the 3. I appreciate the discussion points. So
Yeah,
I'll leave with the 3. Yeah.
Thandobuhle. Oh, you said 4.5. Do you want to give us a reason quickly?
I don't know. Maybe I like a slow burn book, but I really enjoyed the progression of it.
Okay, Tumi, please defend your 5. We actually want to hear from you. Oh, did she say it in the chat? I don't see.
Sorry. I'm carrying a baby.
Oh, hello, baby.
Listen, I came with my 5, leaving with my 5, because I know that my girl is no plot. So I accepted that from the beginning, especially because from page 1 up until 89, I was just like, Mara, what are we trying to say? Where is this going? What, like, laboring slow burner?
Yeah.
But once I got into it and I started picking up social issues, and I'm just like, okay, thank you very much, Jen, for making us see the problem with patriarchy and just like how it affects us as women. So Mina, I'm dying on that hill with my 5.
Thank you. Esther, please
Please.
give us your not Jen. Esther, do you have a final word? And then did I miss anyone? I saw Katlego also. Please do unmute and just give us a final word if you can. All right. I don't think we have them, but it's fine. Okay, it's fine. You can skip. Did I miss anyone? Please, guys, if I missed anyone, please do just jump in and speak. If it's just last few words, and then we're wrapping up. It seems like we have everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for allowing me to host this discussion. Thank you for engagement. Oh, guys, like, wow. I had to take out some other English. I had to take out some other one. Like, nuance this. No, but I absolutely loved it. Kgosi, thank you so much for this platform and this space. Please, can we have more books that you will read? Demerit for our host.
For the most part, all of the books. It's just this one and another one that my eyes watch that I didn't read. But I'm usually very diligent. Yeah, thank you for hosting us. Thank you for not dropping at last minute. I was like, if she does, but it seems like a very nuanced book. A lot of discussion points. Very packed. It's not like Chintu, so we need to commend Jennifer on her range for that, because it seems like this didn't have a plot, but there was a lot of talking points. You guys needed more than 2 hours to discuss. But yeah, thank you for hosting us, and then guys, thank you for everybody who made a contribution towards the Google Meet subscription. I think we're good for 4 months. So if anybody else wants to donate, please let me know. And then next month we're reading Bona Crime by Trevor Noah. So if you know somebody who can get Trevor, please somehow connect us. But otherwise, thank you so much. Look forward to discussions in the group. What's the book after Trevor? I think it's A Girl Who Smelled Bees. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Look in the group, the list is there.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Okay, it's The Girl Who Smelled Bees. So guys, have a good evening. No, like you definitely have to come to Trevor's book. You've been so you can't break your streak of attending meetings. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for the space. Thank you for showing up, and we'll continue reading. Oh, and then I'm on 5FM tomorrow, so please listen in if you can. 7:30. Yeah, I'm going to be sharing my book recs for Women's Month. If there are any that you would maybe like me to consider, please let me know as well in the group. And have a good evening. I look forward to seeing you guys in a month again, and we're going to discuss another book. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.